Well, here we are. It is Friday, June 14th, 2024. And of course, as many of you know, this is the weekly video. We do these every Friday. And there's a lot of material to go over this week because there's a bunch of sales that are coming up. There are a bunch of interesting sales that closed. There were some good results. And there's some news from the internet about things that are going on. I want to clarify, though, something that was commented on in the comment section about the video I did yesterday on the Ivories. Somebody mentioned that there would be a big likelihood of fakes of elephant ivory made if they didn't crack down on it so hard. The point of the video was that from 1980 to 2015, there was a law in effect that banned the importation and sale of ivory in the United States. And during that time, the law was not heavily enforced, I'll put it that way. They weren't going around raiding antique shops like they did in 2014 and 15 and just confiscating inventory. They didn't go to that extent. Sotheby's and Christie's, the major all auction houses, were still selling rhino horns right up until about 2012, 2013. So it wasn't a big issue. The point was that during that 35 years, there was no real indication of fakes and copies being made from contemporary ivory in any sort of meaningful volume being put into the market. There were a couple of pieces here and there that turned up that proved to be dyed and stained, but anybody that knew what they were looking at would instantly be able to tell it. And in particular, there were a number of these crouching immortal ivories that were made, and they were appearing in auctions all over the place between 2006 and 2010 or 11, and it looks like an immortal sitting down with a robe on. And those were actually made from mastodon tusks. Those weren't made from elephant ivory. So the point of my video yesterday was that they had the law in effect. It didn't really do anything. The ivory traffic into the United States was absolutely minimal to none. And I think that to wipe out an entire category of the antique market because of the incidental importation of minor amounts of ivory during a 35-year period is misguided as all get out. I think the loss to the art community is too significant, and to people interested in history and material culture, it's too significant to just say you can't sell it, because this included not only Chinese ivories and African ivory carvings, but included ivory miniatures, for example. There were very famous paintings done on a miniature. There were ivory fitted boxes and so forth that were given as presentations to imperial members of the royal families that were gifts and so forth. And my feeling was that the law went too far and was ineffective. What was effective was when the Chinese government just said you can no longer bring it in, and it pretty much crashed the ivory market. Because of the people that were investing in raw ivory. That was the primary driver. It wasn't artists and carvers that were doing it. So I think that's my position on it. Anyway, I hope you understand. But everybody has their own opinions on it. It's a hot topic. Everything's a hot topic these days, and that's one of them. Now, getting on to other things that were going on. I had mentioned a couple of weeks ago that Sotheby's had cut their commission structure quite a bit, and I was going to talk about it in some detail so that some of you understand what's going on, because what's happening, I think, in the market is that the big auction houses are struggling to get inventory. And I think that's evidenced by the kinds of sales that they're running. They're running one lot auctions of celebrity items. They're selling, as I mentioned last week, selling handbags, selling 3-year-old Hermes scarves. Anything that's sellable that has value, they're willing to create a market for. And then, of course, the silly NFTs that they're peddling, which are just nonsense. And this just is, to me, is a bit of desperation by the big auction houses trying to keep the bills paid. And it's further evidenced by the fact, I'll get to that story in a minute, about layoffs now at Sotheby's. And I imagine Christie's is going to follow suit. And it's not because they can't sell good stuff, but their commission structures, I think, they'd gotten so far out over their skis on commissions, and people were going elsewhere. People were going directly to dealers and so forth, because you tell someone that you're going to get 40% or 35% less than what your item actually sold for is a tough pill to swallow. So I think that's a big part of it. And what Sotheby's has done, and it's going to be interesting to see how Christie's deals with this because of the famous commission rigging scandal of 20 years ago that we did the video on a couple of weeks ago. That's one of the this commission change got me thinking about it, and that's why I did that video. Was that now Sotheby's has lowered their commission structure as of July, I think it's July 1st. The hammer, this is how it's going to work. The hammer price up to and including $6 million will be 20%. A portion of the hammer price exceeding $6 million will be 10%. So after $6 million, the commission rate drops to 10% on the balance over that. Okay. And then there is a $5 million less commission structure, 10% of the first $500,000 of the hammer price. All right, this is the seller's commission, and then it's subject to a maximum of $50,000. All right, so if it ends up selling for $5 million, the most a seller is going to pay is $50,000 basically, and then more than $5 million up to $20 million, the commission is waived. There is no seller's commission. So if you sell something at Sotheby's starting in July, the way this thing reads is you sell something for $10 million, you pay no commissions. Or once it goes over five, I guess it's once it more than 5 million up to including 20 million, it's completely waived. So you pay a commission only on the first 5 million, and then you pay no commission after 5 million, which is a pretty good deal. And then more than 20 million up to and including 50 million, the buyer's premium is waived, plus 40% of the buyer's premium is remitted to the seller. Think about that. So the seller is now going to get part of the buyer's premium. In other words, they're cutting them in as partners. And then more than 50 million, it's what they call bespoke. And what that means is, well, let's negotiate this one. Okay, we're going to sit down and talk to you about it. And this kind of thing has always gone on to some degree or lesser degree with high-end art when it goes to the major auction houses. If you walk into Sotheby's or Christie's with a $200 or $300 million art collection, you're going to have a strong say in what gets charged and what you get out of it. I think it was the Caroline or the Jackie Kennedy sale that the rumor was at the time that a chunk of the Sotheby's commissions that they collected was going back to the Onassis estate, the Kennedy Onassis Kennedy estate, or Kennedy Onassis estate. There were rumors that it was 3% of the buyer's premium. Other people said it was 50% of the buyer's premium because it was a status auction. It was a big social thing, and everybody wanted to get it. It wasn't particularly profitable, I don't think, for Sotheby's, but they wanted to have that, as in their history as having done that auction. So that's what they ended up with. I think at the same time, Christie's landed a major painting sale that Sotheby's had been after, but they sort of blew off. The story was that the family went to Sotheby's to sell their painting collection, and they told them, the rumor was that they were told they didn't really have time because they were working on the Jackie O sale. Christie's ended up getting it, and I think that sale grossed around 10 times or 5 times what the Jackie O stuff grossed. So that's the way that goes. But at any rate, that's the beginning of this, and it's going to be really interesting to see how Christie's and Bonhams and the other bigger auction houses handle this change, because they don't want to be accused of bid rigging again or commission rigging again. So they're going to have to tiptoe into this very carefully. But I suspect they will be forced to respond with a similar or variation on the plan that Sotheby's had put forward. But I think it was very smart of Sotheby's to sort of do it first from a business standpoint. So we'll see how it goes. Now, other stuff that was in here, in this week's Antiques Gazette, I've gotten comments from the Patreon subscribers, because if you subscribe to the Patreon thing, you get this for free each week. I think it's $200 a year now to subscribe to this paper. But we get you get a free copy of the paper each week in your Patreon account. There's a couple of things in here that I wanted to mention, and one of them, jobs to be cut across the big London auction firms. Sotheby's, Christie's, and Bonhams are all undertaking rounds of redundancies. And when companies talk about cutting redundancies, in other words, we all know what that means. They're looking to thin out the herd a little bit, and right now they believe it is not going to exceed 10% of the current workforce in the UK. All right, so they may be trimming people elsewhere, and 10% of any payroll is a significant amount. But I think part of it is that the business sales have not been what they were hoping for. They're down a billion or so over previous years, and of course if sales volumes go down, they have to look for new things to sell, enter the handbags and all that silly nonsense. And the specialized one lot sales, and trying to create buzz about NFTs, you now have them trimming staff, because if you can't get more high-end art to sell, you have to cut what you're shelling out each month, and this is the position they're in. And I think Christie's is probably in the same boat, and so is Bonham's to some degree. Though Bonham's did have an increase in registered users and so forth last year, they had a fairly good year, so they may not be as impacted. But Christie's and Sotheby's, if you look at what they're selling these days compared to what they were selling a few years ago, it's pretty obvious that the well is getting a little low, and they need to find new sources for material. All right, and then the other thing is that Christie's, on the other hand, has had their problems. As you recall, their website was down for about almost 2 weeks back in May, from May 9th to the 20th. So 11 days their site was down, and it was a hacker. Their site was absolutely hacked, and according to this article, the hackers got the passports and personal information, driver's license details, and all this other stuff belonging to subscribed members at Christie's, people who were subscribers to Christie's. The hacker group was demanding ransom for what was a ransomware attack. I don't know. It doesn't say whether or not Christie's paid it. They just said that as far as they know, there have been no transactions committed or violated. None of the accounts have been leaked or violated. Nobody's been using their credit cards and so forth, and they're now urging people to be vigilant about protecting themselves. They've offered a 12 months of identity theft protection and monitoring service at no cost through a specialist firm, Cyber Scudo. So this is their way of saying that the stuff got taken, and they are trying to do what they can. I think that a 12-month, telling people to be careful, and a 12-month protection plan for your credit isn't quite there. I think it's sort of a weak tea response, but that's what they're doing, and we'll see if anything comes of it. Because if people start getting massive charges on their credit card accounts, if you have a credit card tied to your Christie's account, you might want to switch it to a different card if you have one on there, or at least keep a very close eye on your current account. But at any rate, that's one of the things that's going on. And so there's a lot happening in the auction world, and a lot of it's happening around Christie's and Sotheby's at this point, and so forth. And we'll see where it all goes. We'll let you know. But check out the Guardian, the Gazette articles. There's some good other stuff in there this week too. But check those two stories out. They're pretty interesting. Now, moseying along over to what's been going on. Let's see here. Bonham's. Let's see. This is the sale that took place. It closed on the 10th. All right, and this is one of the lots. So let's see, where's the price on? There it is. This was an interesting lot. They had some, Bonham's puts together pretty big lots when they do some of their online sales, and this was one of them. This was a group of 10 blue and white cracked dishes. Now, I always say, carpet bomb these auctions with bids. Leave bids, especially for sales like this. This had a very modest estimate. I forget what it was. It was estimated at $500 to $600 to $800 or something. At any rate, this whole lot of 10 crackware dishes, the largest being 8 inches in diameter, all 10 of them sold for $760 plus premium. That's a good buy. This is a very nice buy. These are good-looking dishes. They look like they were all in pretty good shape. They're all very well-known cracked forms. So they're probably somewhere in the 6 to 8 inch range in diameter. This one's the small one's probably around 5 inches or so forth. But it's sort of like an instant collection, and it's a dealer. If you buy this lot, you can break it up, and you can pretty comfortably double your money if you know what you're doing. And that's one of the interesting functions of buying these big lots. And this was a sale that was held in New York online only. So it's also very important when you're looking at sales that you're going to bid on. Think about how much you're bidding and how much you're going to have to pay for. I always mention shipping, but if you live in the New York area and you live within an hour of the city, you shouldn't even be considering shipping. Just go in and pick the stuff up early on a Monday morning or something, or middle of the day or something, and get it out of there. You can do it pretty easily, and if you buy a bunch of lots, you really save a lot of money. And as a dealer, it gives you a big leg up on a cost standpoint over your competition, and you'll make more money that way. Now over to this, the Tajan sale. It was very successful. They had a nice auction, and one of the pieces that sold, it was estimated at 60 to 80,000 euros. Was this Wan Li Jade? They had listed it as Kangxi, and for the life of me, I have no idea why. I had a number of inquiries about this piece. I was at total loss to understand why they thought this might be Kangxi. It has no aspects of Kangxi that I can see as far as the color goes. It just didn't make any sense. And it ended up selling for, apparently the audience agreed, because it ended up selling for $131,200. So they thought it was pretty good. But the description confused me a little bit, because it has a Jiajing mark on the bottom, and they said it was a Kangxi vase. It measured 19 inches tall, and it sold, I think, a little bit on the soft side. If this is, I think, pretty obviously a Jiajing market period vase, and I think 131,000 is a little bit soft for that. But I mean, somebody got a good buy, because we've seen these in the past, and they bring over 200,000. So there you go. Now over to this. Remember, we talked about this. I just happen to think this was such a pretty piece of porcelain. This Celadon vase, and it was fairly tall, as you recall. It was 29 inches in height. That's a pretty big pot. And it was estimated at only $2,000 to $4,000. I thought it would go right through that, and I think I even said at the time probably closer to $7,000 to $10,000, $7,000 to $9,000, $6,000 to $9,000, somewhere in there. And it ended up selling for $7,980. But it was a beautiful vase, beautiful color, that beautiful like Canuta green, as they call it. It's very popular. It's considered to be the prime Celadon color certainly among Japanese collectors. And this was just beautifully done and beautifully decorated. Liked it a lot, obviously. And then moving along over to this with the pair of Fu Lions. These were very unusual. The coloring on them was very unusual. A soft palette, almost a pastel palette. They were being offered as 19th century examples. They're 20 inches tall. These were big. That's a big, impressive pair, and I think they were a great buy. They sold for a good bit above the high estimate. The high estimate was 6,000 pounds. They sold for 8,790 pounds, but I think that's still a very fair price given how attractive these are. Always bid based on the art. And I thought these were they're very energetic looking. The color selection was, I think, maybe, I don't know if it's unique, but it's certainly unusual. And very well done, all the way around. $8,790. I thought they were beautiful. And then hopping along over to here, this was the big Christie sale that finished up, and this was the one that I want to make sure I get the right real estate where this one took place. This was one in Paris. Okay, this is the Paris sale. It did very well. And I was very curious to see how it would do, because they had some pretty high-end things in here, like this Ming underglazed blue with yellow enamel dish, beautifully done. It was, let's see here, it was estimated at 100 to 150,000 euros. It ended up doubling the high estimate. There's a good write-up on it. It was sold by Lampert's many years ago in 1951. That's an auction house in Europe. And then it was in the Otto Haas collection up until 1964 in Germany. And then it's been within the family ever since. And it's rather exceptional. It's got a Jeanne mark on the bottom here. And as we saw, remember, I don't know if many of you recall, a year or two ago, there was a sale of a collection out of Hong Kong or out of Shanghai that was done, Christie's or Sotheby. They had a whole bunch of these yellow ground plates from the early Ming Dynasty. They all did extremely well, and this one did just as well also. It brought $315,000, and I think that's sort of the sweet spot for them these days. And then there was this very nice Yuan, the Ming Dynasty, Junyao pot, very famous type. For a long time, many people back in the 1920s, they always said these were made in during the Sung dynasty, and people went around forever trying to find paintings with one of these in it from the Sung dynasty, and they couldn't. And the first one, I think, appeared in a painting during the sort of later Yuan dynasty, and they had to rewrite some books because they realized that none of these Junyao pieces done in this way, or the famous numbered planters that have the same glaze, none of them they now believe were made during the Song. All of them were Yuan to Ming. So this was one. It was a beautiful example. Hasn't affected the value at all. It was estimated at 120 to 180,000. Sold for over $250,000 at 277,000 euros. All right. And then along to this was a splendid piece of hairs for a Sung bowl. And for the life of me, I remember looking at this and saying, why is this only estimated at 3,000 to 4,000 euros? I couldn't understand it. Somebody emailed me about it and said, have you seen the Jun bowl, the John Boyer bowl that's in the French shell? And I said, yeah. And he said, what do you think of the estimate? And I just said, it seems like it's a fraction of what this thing is worth. Beautiful glaze. And I love how the drips pooled off to the side. It's splendidly potted. I couldn't understand what it was. I thought, well, maybe it's been completely restored or something. And I told him, if you're interested in it, get a condition report, because the 3,000 to 4,000 euro estimate seems crazy to me. And I said it should. I didn't know it would bring 163,000 euros, because you never know with these. But I thought it would. I told him it would probably bring over 80,000, and it more than doubled that. It brought 163,000 euros. So I don't know why they gave it such a. And this also came from that same collection of Otto Haas. And it's been in the family. It's been off the market now for 80 years, 90 years. It was acquired between the 1920s and the 1950s. That's all that's known about it. A total mystery what happened with the estimate on that. They may just have thought that maybe because the collection wasn't terribly well known or something, it wouldn't bring that much money. But great things that have been off the market for 80 years, we've said many times, when they come back to the market, and it happens a lot in France, it seems. Famously a few years ago, a bronze turned up, and it had been off the market since 1917. It had been in one family's collection, and it ended up selling for about 9 times or 10 times its estimate. Sold for millions of dollars. And again, and it was all predicted by everybody that looked at it, said this thing is gonna blow the estimate to bits, which was a few $100,000. And a big part of that is because it hasn't been floating around in the market in the hands of some dealer or group of dealers for the last 5 years. They're trying to sell it, because a lot of things that do end up in auction have had that history behind them, and people look at them and say, well, that was being offered to everybody under the sun. Fresh things to the market that haven't been flogged around and that haven't been spoiled or burned in the market, but for not being sold, tend to do pretty well. All right, to very well at times. And then over to this is the little brush pot. This was very, very nice. It was a Chongzhen period pot. It had a very modest estimate for these pots these days of 20 to 30,000 euros. It was very nicely done, with the maidens in the garden playing instruments, beautifully, lightly decorated. Very nice touch with the brush. Some ennois decoration at the top and at the bottom. And it ended up doing really well. It sold for 176,400 euros. So it ended up basically 6 times over its high estimate. I think maybe they were putting that low estimate on there just to indicate that there wasn't going to be much of a reserve on it. It had been off the market since 1979. It was the last time it was sold. It was acquired in 1979. And then on to this. This was one of the other pretty good sleepers in the sale. Not a big sleeper, but a good one. And when you look at it, it looks like it's a small jade. Physically, it looks like it's one of these little pendant jades. This thing is 8 1/8 inches long. It's a pretty big piece of stone. And if you took the moment, if you looked at the sale and you took a minute to pull it in and look at the detail and how this was carved, it is absolutely splendid how this was done. You'll notice they had sort of a boulder-sized stone, and instead of carving out the boulder fully like they often do, they segmented it. They sort of carved a staircase going in over here to like an inner sanctum with a vase with smoke coming out of it, and they carved the smoke I love how they did that. That's billowing out of either this vase or an incense burner, or is it a teapot? Is it steam? Because it's coming out of a ewer. But then you have these beautifully carved and finished figures at the bottom, sort of conversing and walking toward the staircase to go inside after coming out from underneath this craggy old tree. And then on the other end of it, there's another carving. That's and the color is good. It's that very nice greenish celadon colored jade that people love so much. But here's another view of it. I was hoping they would show an end view. There's the bottom of it. Okay, and here's is the end of it on the end, with this little studio surrounded by pine trees. It's just a great looking jade. That's all. It's sold for $250,000, €245,000, 245,000 against an estimate of 30 to 50,000, and it's Qianlong period most likely. That's how they dated it. They probably would have to be, but just a great piece of jade. And I think they were very soft on the price. And then this very brightly colored but nicely done Qianlong Marken period cloisonné vase with mask handles. I think it was 11 inches tall, was it? 13 inches tall. It was a little bit bigger. Came out of a private collection that was started prior to 1978. It was estimated at 35 to 45,000. Blew that away and went for 113,000. But the coloring on this was pretty unusual. The palette. It's very bright, with the white background and yellow flowers and the yellow blossoms and so forth. Really brighten up the vase and make it look different than many of them because it doesn't have the blue ground or a darker ground color. It's got a white ground color with cracked ice pattern and then flowers coming out of them. It's just beautifully done. The rue heads, the lappets around the top are nicely done. There's a very nice clear pink enamel in here, and the bronze is gilded, obviously. And if you flip it over, there's a good photograph here of there it is, of the bottom. There's the mark. And this is what the bottom looks like. And dating these cloisonnés is getting tougher and tougher because they're making some really, really good copies. But one of the things that you see right away under here is that the foot's got all kinds of legitimate looking wear to it. And when you look at that and then you look at this, the way the bronze is cast here and the little bits of wear and obvious surface, little tiny surface impacts on the surface. You can see it, and then loads of little bubbles in the enamels. If you see in cloisonné enamels with absolutely no bubbles in it, be very suspicious of it. It should have bubbles, and they shouldn't look intentional. And the wiring on this was particularly well done, I have to say. Beautiful thing. $113,000 against an estimate of 35 to 45,000. And then hopping along over here, this is one of these Han bears. These turn up every once in a while. One of these turn up. They always do well. I'm kind of surprised more fakes of them haven't turned up on the market, to be honest with you. This is a legitimate one. There was a famous one that was in the Ellsworth collection, and it's sold and resold. I think Jim Lally had one that he sold that did very well later in an auction and so forth. And this was a beautiful piece. And it was estimated at 100 to 150,000, which was not a soft estimate. It's ended up selling for 302,000. And let's see, it came from the collection of a U.S. Senator, Hugh Scott from Washington, D.C. And it was bought from Christian Didier, Paris. Now, Christian Didier is one of the leading authorities in the world, and he's a dealer in France on bronzes. He did a number of books. Actually, they're on the Bidamount. If you go to bidamount.com and go to the catalogs, you'll find, if you search under bronzes, you'll find many of his exhibition catalogs. They have great information in them. He did some really good scholarly work. And I think in one of the books he has pictures of him with the president of France, Mitterrand, was a collector of bronzes and was a friend of Didier's. But at any rate, he had sold this apparently, so no surprise that provenance probably helped a little bit too. And then over to this. Now this was an amazing thing. This was a jade book with a Zeton cover, archaistic carving on the top. The origins of it suggest it may have come from the Summer Palace. Because it was in the collection of M.H. Herbert, Oxford, England, 1880. And as you know, that's only a few years after the raid on the Imperial Palace. And this is an Imperial Jade book. Now, it doesn't mean it absolutely came from there, but boy, this is the kind of stuff they took. and ended up in auctions in both France and in England following the destruction of the Summer Palace. And this is it was a stupendous book, and hopefully it wasn't looted. I hate to think that all these pieces were stolen, but it was estimated at 200,000 to 300,000 euros, sold for 277,000. Very strong price. Sometimes the covers like this cover, for example, can sell for 50 or 60,000 by itself with no jade. They're highly desired. The Zeton covers are highly desirable. They use them to do twin dragons on top of scroll boxes and so forth for the palace, and they are highly collected today. But this was a beautiful example. And then over to this. Lastly, is this? I threw this in because I just liked it. It was a Yixing coupe, probably 18th or 19th century. They didn't bother. They didn't want to date it, which I understand. It was bought at Bonham's in Hong Kong in 2011, about 13 years ago. But it's beautifully done. It's a peach form thing, peach form coupe, and it looked like it was in wonderful condition. Nice carving on it. A little bit dirty here and there, but clearly an old one. And it was estimated at 5,000 to 7,000 euros. It did very well. It sold for 13,800 euros, and it's very small. It's only about 4 inches in size. It's not a 7 or 8 inch bowl or anything. It's very small, 4 inches, but wonderful, a little gem of a thing. Great scholars table object and so forth. All right, now moseying along over to here, a few reminders of sales that are coming up. There's a lot of sales coming up in the next week or so. This is the one as a reminder. The Marco Polo sale is taking place on the 18th, and I'm showing this as a reminder. Last week, as we talked about this particular vase, I thought it was wonderful. One of these Famille Rose soldier vases, beautifully done, very large, estimated at 8,000 to 12,000 euros. It should get there. And then there's also a very nice pair of Amari wine coolers. Now, these are very curious. They got a very modest estimate, but they look absolutely fine to me as 18th century Amari pieces. They're about 11 inches in height. They look to be in excellent condition. Now, maybe the consignor didn't want to push too hard for reserves, or anything. He just wants to sell it. Maybe it's coming out of an old collection or something. But these look really good. And the estimate is only 500 to 700 euros for the pair. And they measure 28 centimeters in height, so they're about 10 inches tall. They're pretty good size, 11 inches tall, actually. If you're an Amari collector, you might want to get some more information about that. Oop, I got a guest here. Buck, what are you doing? Hi, Buck. He doesn't want to come up. Sorry. You want to come up, Buck? Buck, come here. Come here. You want to come up? No? Okay. Scoot. All right. He doesn't want to. He's moseying around. He's been very lazy today. All right, and then over to this. This is the Marco de Santos sale that's coming up. This starts on the 15th. Tomorrow, Saturday. If you haven't registered, go ahead and do it. They've got a bunch of nice things in here. It's a good-looking sale. They've got a pair of these Chinese Yongchen period ladies. And these, just as a heads up, these normally sell for around 15,000 or 12 to 16,000. So the estimate is a little bit soft on it, and the starting price is more than reasonable. It's extremely reasonable. So again, this is one of these sales you want to hit, regularly. It's in. Let's see. This is in Porto, Portugal. I thought it was in Lisbon. It's not in Lisbon. It's in Porto. All right, and then over to this. This sale is coming up. This is Adams Auction House in Ireland. And I don't know if you're familiar with Adams. It's a good auction house. They've been there for years. They sell nice things. They get a lot of good Asian things. And they have a fantastic, and this is coming up on the 25th of June, about 10 days from now. This fantastic, they have a collection of kingfisher feather hairpins. And if you're interested in that side of thing, check out that sale. I think they've got 6 or 7 lots of these. They all look very good, and the estimate is extremely reasonable. 600 to 800 euros for this is they should come close to tripling that. These are very nice, and like this sale's on the 25th, so you have plenty of time to get detailed shots, because when you buy these, you want to really check them for condition. You want to go over them, but these look like they're all in nice condition. They all look nice. The blue is still rich and vibrant. Some good additional colors in there. Some of them have gilding, as you can see. Looks like a good lot. And then over to this. This is coming up at Freeman's. And this sale is on the 21st of June. It's the June 21st auction they're having, and I'm showing these. These are really interesting. These are Dewa or Blanc de Chine, and they call them Marco Polo pieces. And the reason they're called Marco Polo is that in the 19th century in Venice, Italy, at one of the museums, they found one of these, and it had a note with it that it had been brought back from China by Marco Polo, which of course it couldn't have because he wasn't there when these were made. But these were made later. These were made in the 17th or early 18th century, but they thought they were. So they've forever since been called Marco Polo censors, even though he was there several hundred years earlier. It's just one of those odd names that gets attached to things in history and never comes off. It's like Coromandel screens were never made in the Coromandel coast of India, but that was the point of exportation for them, so they call them Coromandel. No Canton ware was ever made in Canton. It was exported from there. And there's some other story of making this why they call these Marco Polo. It's because they found them with a note saying they were. That's all. All right, but also in this sale are these. There's a couple of these boxes. These are really nice lacquer boxes, 18th century. This one is in the form of a pomegranate, and it's got an old sticker on the back from it's just the Chait Gallery, Ralph Chait Gallery in New York. I have no doubt that they sold these. This is the kind of thing they sell. They're still in business. They sell great things. They're sort of the American version of Marchands. They're very close competitors. But this is a beautiful, beautiful lacquer box. And this is the top of the box. As you can see, the color is slightly faded compared to the rest of the box. So it may have even been treated to tone the color down to give it a little bit of an amber tone to it. I think it was actually done that way. I don't think the color has faded because this red isn't faded. And then the side. But it's very nicely done. And there are two of these, one lot and then the other. They're being sold separately. But if you like good lacquer, these are great. They're 18th century. The estimate is $2,500 to $3,500, which I think is very reasonable. They should bring that all day long. They should bring 2,000 to 3,000 very easily. And they could bring more. They could bring 5 to 10. So don't be surprised if they do. And then this is coming up at Bonham's in Los Angeles online. The bidding starts in 2 days or 3 days on the 17th. This is a very nice looking Lang Yao Mei Ping vase, 18th century. It measures 8¼ inches tall. Very nice color. Very good color. Areas of the color almost go to liver red. It's got some really nice shading in it, and I like the way the foot is flared out. Very much, they flare out like this when you see the nice Kangxi examples. That was one of the ways they often finish them, with these sort of wide feet. I don't think there's any other pictures. No, they only put one picture in. Bonhams don't do that. Put in extra pictures. All right, and then over to this. This is a pair of wood figures of Lohan's. Sort of late Ming pieces, Wan Li probably. I just threw them in because I like them. I love. Everybody knows I love this kind of thing. And these two are very expressive, sort of looking at each other almost defiantly. But they're very attractive. And these are big too. These are 20 inches tall. They're not little things. They're estimated at $5,000 to $7,000. I think that's probably about right. But very interesting and unusual and big. 20 inches, almost 2 feet tall. All right. And then over to this. This is also at Bonham's, but this is over in, this is also in Los Angeles. There's a bunch of silk in this sale. Also, some very good robes and a bunch of good rank badges. So check that out. These are 19th century Mandarin with Mandarin ducks on them, and estimated 2,000 to 3,000 for the pair. That might be a little aggressive, but certainly, well, $700 or $800 a piece, I would think. So the estimate might be a little aggressive, but I don't know what the reserve is. There may not be any reserve on this stuff at all. So leave a bid depending on where the bids start, that we can start the bidding. And then over onto here, this is the sale that's coming up at Rob Michaels, I believe. Yeah, this is Rob Michaels' sale. He has a bunch of lots like this. This is one lot. This isn't an advertisement showing you what's in the auction. This is what is in one lot. And it looks like there's probably 125 to 175 pieces in this lot. And this is the kind of thing that if you're a dealer and you can go to the auction, you're going to buy these. Dealers in the room will buy this. Collectors in the room will buy this lot because it'll be cost prohibitive to ship anywhere, but certainly to pick up. And this is the kind, and he's got numerous lots like these in his sale, numerous huge jumbo lots. And they're all over. Here's another one. And this lot has 34 18th century dishes in it, varying size, estimated at only 6 to 1,200 euros, or around $40 or a plate or less. And you don't have to be in the business very long to recognize that if you can buy all of these in that price range, you're going to make money with it. You're going to make some serious money. The biggest plate here is 23 centimeters, or about 9 inches in diameter, and those are all worth between probably $125 and $200 each. So it doesn't take long to break even on this lot. And these are very nice. These are Mari examples, and these Famille Rose examples at the top in particular. And there's some very nice cup and saucer sets in here. And then you have the boy on the hill waving the banner and so forth. Some good lots in there. So do check it out. He also has some single lots that are very nice. This one caught my eye because it has underglazed blue and underglazed red in it. It's 37 centimeters, or about 15 inches in height, but beautifully done. The underglazed red on this was very well controlled, and I like the expressions and the attitude of the birds. It's a nice looking vase. And how big is it? 37 centimeters. Estimated 2 to 4,000 euros, which is perfectly reasonable. Has a 1,600 euro opening bid. I think that's right in there. And it's an 18th century vase. They're sort of going back and forth whether it's Yongchen to Qinlong. To me, it looks like it was made in the 1770s or something, but certainly worth the estimate. 3 to 4,000 euros, I think, is fine for that. And then these are my favorite things in the sale. They're not the most expensive thing, probably, but these are fantastic planters, or dragon fish bowls. The scale of the dragons on these is just astounding. And these are pretty good size, too. These are 47 centimeters in diameter and 39 centimeters in height. So they're about 18 inches wide each. They're estimated at 12 to 18,000 with a $9,500 opening bid. But I just think these are so striking. I really, really do. I think these are just great. And they're a mirrored pair. So this is the way you display them, like this, with the two dragons sort of coiling back on one another. Nice 5-clawed decoration on here. The scales are well done. The underglazed red on the one on the left, it came out a little better than the one on the right. But that's what happened in the kilns back then. Sometimes the underglazed red could come out looking rather dark, almost like dried blood, that deep red color. And then you have this wonderful crashing wave pattern around the bottom. And the bottom of it here is flat, unglazed, with a V-cut foot rim. Very typical of 18th century trimming. The paste looks good. I think the it's clearly it's a Qinlong thing, and I think these are great. I think these are just great, and very unusual. If you haven't seen them before, it's because they're unusual, using that scale of decoration. And then hopping over to this is again another example from Marco de Santos. I already mentioned it, but I pulled up several things that are in that sale. And this is coming up at Skinner Boston, or Bonham's Boston. Now that Bonham's now owns Skinner Auctions. They have a sale coming up. It's their Americana sale on June 15th. It's tomorrow. If you're checking on it, this is more of a reminder. They have things like this Arms of Godfrey plate from the Yongchen period. This is probably going to do better than that. Last month, Nadau's had a Arms of Godfrey soup bowl that was slightly bigger, but not a lot bigger, and it sold for over $3,000. Or with the buyer's premium and everything, it was around $3,000. So expect this to work its way through the estimate pretty comfortably, and probably will bring $1,200 to $1,600, I suspect. But there's a bunch of good armorial wear in there. If you're an armorial buyer, go straight over to Skinner's right now and look at them. I know many of you already have, but this is just sort of a reminder not to forget. And then this is coming up, Fortune Auction Gallery down in Plano, Texas. Interesting little auction house. They don't often get really, really early or rare things, but they seem to be a general line auction house that knows a bit about export porcelain. They always seem to have some. And they came up with this. And this is a really interesting 18th century teapot in Famille Rose. And it has this sort of faux bois, almost like sectioned, almost like bamboo handle and spout on it. It almost looks like a coral snake. The colors are different. In that very typical landscape scene that you see on these, but nicely done with the handles. I think the handles are great. I think the handles are more exciting than the decoration. But it's a very nice looking teapot. It measures 7.5 inches to height, so it's good size. Estimated at $2,000 to $4,000, which is very high. But the starting price is only $100, which is of course very reasonable. What is it worth? It's probably worth somewhere between $400 and $600. Maybe it'll bring $7 if you have a collector that has the, if you have comparable pieces with that pattern on the handle and spout, and you're looking for the teapot, this is your one shot to get it. So you better hit it hard with a bid. But that's a nice thing. It's a nice thing. And then hopping over here, what happened on eBay last week? They had some pretty good results all over the place. And we'll get to the some lots that are going to be in this week's page. We update this. Those of you that are new, we update this page every week. It's on bidamount.com under weekly newsletter. And every Friday around between 5 and 6:30, we finish getting it all updated when we get the weekly video loaded. And we redo this page every single week. We go through and hand pick everything that's in here. We don't just scrim a bunch of stuff off the page and throw it in here and let you try to, wonder if it's okay or not. These are things we've looked at, we've checked. In many cases over the years, we've gotten to know some of the sellers, so we're pretty comfortable with them. They know their stuff, and there were some very nice results this week. There'll be more good things coming up this week as well. And those are all on eBay. They're all auction items and so forth. There is this sold last week. We talked about it because I thought it was such an unusual shape. This is a late Qing, possibly early Republic period, a bucket form pot. Really, really nice handles on it with the underglaze iron red and auspicious bats, and then all this famille rose decoration. And this pattern here, the way these butterflies are drawn, is a style that you saw at the end of the Qing Dynasty and into the Republic period on all kinds of wares that were exported. But this shape is just very, very unusual, and I liked it a lot. And so did everybody else, apparently. It ended up selling for $2,938. And it's not because of the age. The age is incidental to the piece. The form is rare. It's an unusual type. And if you're a teapot collector and you collect unusual teapots, this was a good thing to grab. All right, and then over to, let the page load, if it will. There we go. Was this very nice pair of saucers. And we talked about these, I think, last week too, or the week before, because they have no borders on them. And I like these a lot. They use the entire plate as a canvas. They're matched pair. This obviously came from a set. Here's a picture of the bottom of them and so forth. They've got sort of apocryphal Qinlong marks on there. They're not Qinlong, but they are mid-19th century. These are very, very attractive, or 1830 to 1850, I suspect, somewhere in there. And they did very well. They brought $1,133 for the pair. Very, very attractive. Those pieces, some of the fine pieces made in particular during the Daoguan period for the export market, can be extremely pretty. And this is one of them. All right, and then over here to this, the pillows. These were, a fellow had sent these in to me actually to look at. He thought he knew what they were, but he wanted to know if I thought they'd sell pretty well. I thought they would, and they did. They sold for $1,575. They had 27 bids. They were beautifully done. You don't see pillows very often, and the condition of these was excellent. So there we go. Nice examples. And then I'm down to this very nice 17th century sort of turquoise glazed object, turquoise glazed figure rather. I think this is probably, I thought last week that this was probably Ming, and I still do, but it's Ming to Kangxi period. It's sort of it's within 60 years. It's a pretty narrow window of time. It's very hard to be exact unless it's got a rain mark on it and it's authenticated. But this looks absolutely fine. And it ended up selling for $1,021, right about in the range that we thought it would get to. Very, very nice example. It's got a couple of old repairs, I think, here and there, but that's about it. Perfectly fine. And then onto this, the mug. This beautiful strap-handled mug, very unusual type. Had a monogram on the front of it with enameling going over the basket weave pattern along the top. It had a small chip out of it. There it is. All right, and you see the basket weave pattern. You see that on the finer
on the finer late 18th century export wares. And this one, they paid extra and had this famille rose vine and leaf decoration added and so forth. And it's got these very handsome big strap handles. This was a very nice pot. I think it was a great buy. Somebody paid $472 for it. And it sold in the range that we thought it would sell for. But if somebody, you know, if 2 or 3 people really wanted to have it and went for $600 or $700, I wouldn't think it was an unfortunate purchase either. It would be perfectly fine because it's a good example. Always go for the quality. Always go for the quality of the work. All right, because in time, what you paid for it doesn't mean anything as you see prices change. Anyway, and then over to this, the Kangxi Period Dewa or Blanc de Chine Peony Blossom cup. This was a really nice one. I liked it a lot. I thought it was very well done. It's got that little stepped foot underneath. The glaze was nicely done, very creamy. The relief is high. Has everything going for it, and ended up selling for $661. Very, very nice. You know, these are much rarer than the libation cups that we see all the time. Some libation cups are absolutely beautiful, beautiful examples. Some are sort of common, but this wine cup form don't turn up very often. So there it is. And then other things that'll be put in the newsletter this week are over here. There's this Kwanware porcelain vase. At first when I saw this, I was a little concerned about it. But when I looked at the bottom of it and looked at all the details on it, this one actually looks like it's probably from the late 18th or early 19th century. Looks pretty good. He didn't date it. It's being sold by a seller out in California. It's up to $117. It closes on Sunday. And then over to this is this very nicely carved Lohan or immortal with carrying a peach. And this is being sold by JG Arts Limited. They sell lots of interesting small things. And this was a nice one. It's a 19th century example, but he's got a very nice facial expression. It's got a good patina on it, and it's well carved. And it's only up to $48. It'll probably go for $200 to $400, $300 or $400 maybe. If you get a bamboo collector in there, this is bamboo, not wood, so it should get a pretty good price. All right, because bamboo is more desirable than wood, unless it's Zitan or Huanbali typically. And then over to this, the little famille rose brush rest. These come up from time to time. They were all made for the most part in sort of the mid 19th century, from the sort of the end of the Daoguan Tongqi period in there up through about 1910 typically. But this is a nice one. It's got the scroll base on the ends. And they generally always sell well. This one has a Qinlong mark on it, which is, I think it's Qinlong. Usually it is. Yeah, it's a Qinlong mark. It's apocryphal, but it is you know, a mid 19th century thing. And those Qinlong marks get people to bid on them. Right now, it closes on Monday. It's up to $320. Expect it to get up to $800 to $1,200 by the time it's done. These are very interesting, especially for people who collect scholars tables objects, scroll weights, brush pots, armrests, you know, all that sort of thing, little miniature vases to put on the table, and the brush rests, of course, ink stones. This is who this is being probably chased by or going to be ultimately bought by. Somebody who's really into scholars objects. And if you have any books on scholars objects, you'll find these examples in there, so forth. And then over to this. This is sort of a curious lot. I don't know if any of you have seen this. I don't know the seller. He only has 13 feedbacks. But he's got a lot here with a very nice early 19th century Chinese export urn vase. It's out of a garniture set, probably for the either American or English market typically. There's this. This is quite nice. You want to check, you know, condition and so forth. But overall, it looks like it's in good shape. Oh, no, it's got a line down the side and a repair. Okay, never mind that. But it has candlesticks with it. I don't care about the vase. I was going to get over to the candlesticks. They have repairs too, but those are 18th century candlesticks. And in 18th century Chinese porcelain candlesticks, nearly always are damaged. When you find pairs of them, the chances of both of them being perfect is maybe 1 in 10 sets is perfect. They always have repairs, but these are very nice examples, Chinlung, and you get it's a chance to buy sort of a fix and repair lot, I guess, for 60. Right now it's at $61. It closes on Wednesday of next week, but the candlesticks are nice and are restorable. So if you've been looking for a pair of Chinese export candlesticks, you may want to check those out. The vase has damage to it, but for the for the right price, they're good to buy. And but the candlesticks are rare. You don't see candlesticks often. And then over to this. The last thing is this. This is one of the prettiest 19th century China trade fans I've seen in a while. It has something very unusual going on. And many of you already noticed it. Is that the black lacquer area has been embellished with famille rose decoration and colored enamels all over the place. This is absolutely beautiful. This is very, very nice. It's a lovely, lovely fan. And I don't think the figures have porcelain faces on them. Sometimes these fans, if you look at them, the faces up here, you always have to check them because sometimes they, around 1850 or so, I guess, they used little tiny discs of porcelain to make the faces so they'd be nice and white. And then they'd enamel, they would put decoration, eyes and lips and so forth on the faces. So you always want to check for that. But this is a really unusual fan. Very, very unusual. It's being sold by a fan specialty dealer who deals in French fans and American fans. So it doesn't surprise me that she's offering this. This is a nice one. And right now it's up to $690. It closes on Sunday. Expect it to bring, if you're a fan buyer, expect this will cost you, should end up costing you at least $1,600 or $1,700. And maybe more, maybe 2,500 even, because it's a very, very unusual type. All right, so that's about it for the week. There's a lot going on. I told you we had a lot to talk about today. Some nice objects coming up. As I said, there's a bunch of sales. The global member and Patreon, the pages have all been updated. So if you're a Patreon subscriber, or you use the global membership service, check it out. There's a lot on there right now. There's a whole lot on there. And there's some sales coming up in September they're already talking about, so we'll see how they do. And that's about it. Subscribe if you haven't so far. Leave a comment. Give us a thumbs up. Help the algorithm. And have a great weekend. Enjoy your summer. Enjoy your summer. All right. Bye-bye.